FM26 is being called both the biggest leap forward in Football Manager history and a potential UI-driven meltdown waiting to happen. That's right, boys and girls. The press embargoes have lifted and various elements of the gaming press and the Radio Times have finally published their first hands-on impressions of Football Manager 26, and their reactions are, how do I put this politely, chaotic? What we've got here is a game that several outlets are calling the biggest overhaul in Football Manager history, while simultaneously warning that half the fan base might absolutely lose their minds when they load it up for the first time. So today, instead of giving you my impressions, I'm going to walk through what Eurogamer, Forbes, Radio Times, Shortlist and Kicker have said in their official previews, because their reactions paint a very clear picture of what kind of storm FM26 is about to unleash. Let's start with the hype, because make no mistake, there is a lot of excitement. I know some of the reaction online last night in particular was that these were all quite negative. But if you actually read the 5 articles, and I did put myself through that, including a translated version of the German one, if you actually read them, there are some positives to pull out. Shortlist described FM26 as the boldest reinvention in the series' history, pointing out that Sports Interactive skipped FM25 entirely just to rebuild the game from scratch, a rare move for any sports franchise and one that clearly signalled something big was coming. Eurogamer backed that up, saying FM26 opens up heaps of new space for tactics and customization, while Forbes called it rebuilt for modern attention spans. I'm not sure if that one's a positive or not, but they specifically mentioned that Sports Interactive designed parts of the game around TikTok era engagement habits. Radio Times chimed in with FM26 is a huge leap forward, possibly the most significant since the Championship Manager split. So yeah, if you only read the headlines, it does all seem pretty positive. But what happens when you read a little deeper? It's going to take a lot of getting used to. That's Eurogamer again. One sentence after singing its praises. They love the ambition, but warn that FM26 is going to shock people. And the main reason? The new UI. As we've already seen in the trailers, gone is the traditional sidebar we've been clicking through since the dawn of civilization. In its place, according to Shortlist, is a tile-based, information-driven layout where every block is both data and navigation. It sounds fancy, and it even looks fancy. Obviously, we've seen the pictures, but the press weren't entirely convinced. Radio Times had some choice words. They wrote, years, if not decades, of quality of life improvements are not immediately present in the new interface. They complain that some menus didn't even have a back button, forcing them to return to the dashboard and click their way back in. They even mentioned dragging substitutes being so fiddly that you had to get it pixel perfect or it wouldn't register. And that's not me saying that, that's the Radio Times. I can feel the reaction bubbling on Reddit without even having to look. Eurogamer echoed it as well, calling the UI janky in places and suggesting it might be a year or two before it reaches the level of refinement players expect. So yeah, it looks modern, it's clearly designed to be more visual, but based on the previews, expect chaos in your first hour. Now, let's talk tactics, because this is arguably the best received of the trailers we've seen so far from the Football Manager community. FM26 introduces something fans have been asking for years, the ability to set different formations and player roles for in possession and out of possession phases. Radio Times said it plainly. Tactics are now split between in possession and out of possession, letting you field completely different systems depending on whether you have the ball. And one of the outlets jokingly warned that we may soon see left backs running to the right wing, which is probably not far from reality and is literally an experiment I'm already planning. Mezzalas and libero types have apparently turned into things like channel midfielder. And I'm really not sure my brain will ever understand what a channel midfielder is. I just want my libero back so I can mispronounce it for another 10 years. But yeah, we're losing all the fancy names that made me sound exotic. The press were excited, but slightly confused. Most of them admitted it will take a while to fully understand what everything does. Translation: prepare to spend several hours staring at your tactics board, wondering if your centre-back is about to overlap your striker. Women's football is something every outlet praised without hesitation. It's finally coming to Football Manager, and as confirmed by Shortlist, it's not a side mode or a separate database, it is fully integrated into the main game. They reported over 36,000 female players and 14 leagues across 11 countries at launch. You can manage a women's club from day one, work your way up, get poached by a men's team or vice versa. It's one big shared universe. Same contracts, same development systems, same transfer logic. Tina Keach, head of the women's database at SI, called it a landmark moment that will educate new fans and bring more visibility to the women's game. Radio Times did note that the number of playable leagues is small to start with, but they also said it's clearly structured to expand over time. This might actually be the biggest feature FM26 will be remembered for. Massive respect to SI for doing it properly and not just ticking a box. But of course, there's a small but very loud group of weirdos already furious about it because apparently women playing football is still just a bit too much for them. More positives. Forbes said matchday visuals are now leagues ahead of FM24. Radio Times admitted they weren't all that impressed by the trailer until they saw the game in motion, stating that Unity appears to have given the game a much needed boost in animation and clarity. You can apparently see exactly where players are at any moment with new data overlays and better spatial representation on the pitch. I'm pretty sure we could see the players before, but let the journalists journal. However, some outlets did spot odd behaviour. Radio Times said in their friendly, all 6 goals are scored by defenders, including a fullback hat-trick, which is either a bug or corner hacks are back. And talking of bugs, it wouldn't be a Football Manager preview without some carnage. Eurogamer said they encountered a sheer volume of little issues and regular bugs that were noticeable throughout. Kicker, the German press outlet, reported great progress, but also said bugs marred the experience. Radio Times described the overall feel as rough around the edges, and even went as far as predicting FM26 will be a very divisive release, and some may cling on to FM24. Now, in fairness, some outlets did mention that the build they played was already a few weeks old, and that Sports Interactive had reportedly fixed over 100 bugs since the build was given to the press. So will it be cleaner by the beta by the time we all get to play it? I guess we'll find out soon enough. When the beta drops and we all get our hands on it, that's when the verdict really lands. Well, I imagine Sports Interactive would argue, don't judge it actually until release day on the 4th of November, but we all know we're judging the beta. So, what is the verdict based on the press? FM26 looks like the most ambitious Football Manager of all time, and also possibly the most chaotic. I've decided to summarise the articles in 5 of my favourite quotes. Shortlist called it the boldest reinvention ever. Eurogamer, it's going to take a lot of getting used to. Kicker called it a huge step forward, but rough in places. And the Radio Times said it was divisive. And as mentioned before, some will cling to FM24. And Forbes, and this is possibly my favourite one, Forbes are the ones who said it was built for modern attention spans. So, is FM26 about to usher in a glorious new era, or is it going to melt Reddit on launch day when people can't find the back button? I guess we'll find out soon enough. And of course, if you are planning to jump in on day one, don't pay full price for the game. If you want to get FM26 cheaper than it is on Steam and guarantee early access, use my link in the description and you're supporting the channel at the same time. It's win-win for all of us. So that's your press roundup for anyone without the time or patience to read through 5 articles, one of which, I'll say again, was in German. That GCSE is finally coming in handy. Now, let me know in the comments, are you excited, terrified, holding fire on uninstalling FM24 for the time being? Fingers crossed we're now only days away from the beta, so we're not going to have to wait very long to find out, I guess. Toodle pip, everyone.